we'll go on the record. I'll call the meeting to order and note that there is a quorum present. The second item on the agenda is something that we have added recently to the agenda as the airport grows and interest in the airport has increased. We've added a public comments, airport announcements, and recognition section to the agenda, and I have 3 people that have signed up to speak. You have, we're asking you to limit it to 5 minutes. If you have something that's terribly plangent in the discretion of the chair, I can extend that. But the first person is Clay Duckworth from 1A. Good afternoon, sir. What can we do for you?
Well, I just wanted to introduce me, and my business partner, Jeremy. We're Aerobets Aviation. Just moved in to hangar 1A. The Garmin avionics dealer. Primarily install avionics suites and all kinds.
We're glad to have you. Nice to have you.
Yeah, welcome. And I invite mechanical, side maintenance.
We've been in business 5 years, 5 or 6, so 6 years.
And you're moving totally to Guthrie or?
Already here.
Okay.
Did you guys say Aerobets? Is that right?
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Welcome.
From where?
We've moved from El Reno. Cool.
Is it primarily El Reno now and Guthrie, or you're just kind of?
Just
Guthrie.
Just Guthrie.
Excellent.
Yeah. We're very excited here to be on the airport. It seems to be business supportive. It really helps to maintain a business when the airport is receptive to the business. We're happy to have you
Glad to
here.
have you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And
You just crossed me off.
Jeremy,
Yeah.
so, okay, so we've got 2 out of the way. Wow.
Jeremy, what's your last name? Michaels? Jeremy Michaels, okay, nice to meet you both. That's awesome.
Well, we're glad to have you. We're always appreciative of businesses wanting to come and expand and move into the airport. So it really helps our economic footprint, the importance of the airport place. Mr. Bartman,
Yeah,
our FBO, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Good to see everybody. Yeah, Aerobets has been a great addition. Jeremy and Clay have done a ton of little minor repairs and upgrades to Hangar 1A, which was kind of put together by Glenn and his group over years. So that's been great. They're gonna be great to have on the ground and bring a lot of business. Wanted to give you guys some updates that you may or may not have heard of. AirNAS is the new flight school. Their SR-20s are scheduled to arrive right now, the end of August. So there's 4 of them. They'll be hangared in Hangar 2. Principal Jet Management, which manages about 6 aircrafts, one of them being one that we have a shared ownership group in, the Ultra, that flies out of here. They'll probably bring more tenants here long term. They have taken the office in Hangar 2 upstairs. So that office was one of my business partners, Alex, which he didn't really have a business, so he was retired. So it made a good fit for them to be here, be on the ground, manage that aircraft. Hopefully bring some of their King Airs this way, and some other tenants that are looking to move from where they're at. Last update, the fuel system is scheduled for arrival first week of September right now. That's kind of a moving target, but I wanted to give you an update on that. We've been in constant communication with Innovative Fuel, and Caden's been jumping in on that process to make sure that we've got everything we need. And then the last note, which is great news, is last night as of close, we passed last year's fuel volume from the Crabtree Group. So August 12th. And we have surpassed the fuel volume from 23. So we opened January 3rd, to give you an idea of January's kind of slow growth and bad weather. We've done a lot of it without, a ton of advertising, which we're going to ramp up here in the next coming months. So we're super excited about that. We are on pace to do our, well exceed our goal for 24. So proud of Justin and his team and the work they're doing. And I think you guys see it around here with the busyness of traffic and what we plan to do, and everything's going as planned. Okay.
Also,
The question, Mr. Barton. Your fuel, is it more jet or 100 low lead?
Oh, that's a great question. So we did 48,000 gallons of Jet A and 40 of avgas. In the two, which is a good sign because that means we're growing the jet business and we really want to grow the jet business here. Justin can speak to this, the number of jets you had at Sundance when you were there.
We have 21 base jets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, our goal is to drive the jet business. The new Jet A tank will be beneficial to that. And our avgas business has picked up. I think one of the big hurdles for a, Walt here is the number of hangars that may not have an aircraft in it, do or don't, that aren't being utilized for aviation. Like, we want people that want to fly, that want to hangar an aircraft that moves and is getting out. But we're growing both sides of the business. Both are up substantially, but the Jet A is really up.
Quick question, where did the King Air company come from?
So we have a King Air here on the ground that came out of Texas, I believe, and that's Q Capital. They just signed last week and moved into Hangar 2. And then the management group, Principal Jet Management, which Jeff Curl, he works full-time for the FAA. Jason Craig, the FedEx full-time pilot, but their management group manages 6 different aircrafts right now, trying to bring more here. They manage a few King Airs that are based at Wiley Post and other airports that really want to be where their managers are, where the plane is with the manager, and that's kind of the structure all around, but that we need more space too, so we need places to put those people. We did provide Caden a list of 15 tenants in waiting, 15 aircrafts in waiting, people that are interested in moving, ready to go. Non-committal, we don't have the space. We're 1 aircraft short of full in Hangar 2, and we're kind of holding that for the last tenant.
And so your maintenance on those King Airs is gonna be driven from here?
Well, our long-term goal is to put maintenance on the ground here, and where we do that is up in the air, but we want to have a full-time maintenance facility here 100%. So Justin's in contact with some people that we use and can speak about that if needed, but absolutely, this airport grows with full-time maintenance.
Currently, Ryan is taking care of the King Air that's on the field out here. Yep.
Is that 250, 350? The King Air?
It's a B200.
200? You have 200, never mind. That's interesting, good. Good, very good. That's good news.
Bob, I was gonna say, thanks for doing what you said you're gonna do. Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys keep that working.
All right. Thank you, everybody. That concludes item number 2. Item number 3, we have 2 items on minutes as a result of the lack of quorum from last month. So item number 3 is discussion, consideration, possible action to approve the minutes of the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board retreat meeting held June 11th, 2024. Are there any corrections to those minutes as published in the packet that was emailed to the members? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
There's been a motion made by Councilman Williams, seconded by Member Young to approve the minutes. If there are no additions or corrections, are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Having received a majority of those appointed to and constituting the board, the motion carries. Item number 4 is discussion and consideration and possible action to approve the minutes of the Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport Board special meeting, June 11th, 2024. Are there any additions, corrections, or questions about the minutes of June 11th as published in the packet?
Move to approve.
There's been a motion made by Member Guy. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Member Young to approve the minutes of the special airport board meeting of June 11th, 2024. There's no further discussion or question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Received majority of those appointed to and constituting the board, the motion carries. Item number 5 is discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve the monthly financials for the month of May 2024. Those were in your packet. Any questions on the financials? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Approved. There's been a motion made by Member Guy. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made and second laid upon the table by Guy and Young to approve the May financials. There are no further comments, discussion. Are you ready to question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Having received the majority of those appointed to and constituting the board, the motion carries. Item number 6, consideration and possible action to approve the June financials of 2024 as published in your packet. Are there any questions about the June financials?
Did the June, financials include the purchase of the truck?
The purchase of the truck should have been, well, it was a few months before June. It's already occurred. It had already.
I mean, the final payment, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
It should be. Yes, if you look at the statement of revenue and expenditures on page 2 for the month, it says the month ending in July 31st. You can see the pickup, which is account 98986569. If you look at year-to-date actual, you can see the total amount for the truck purchase. It was 49,000. That leaves us with a little bit left remaining in the year in that account. We're looking at different ways to utilize those dollars for the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you, appreciate it. Good.
Any other questions on the June financials? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion by Member Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Strong, Member Strong, to approve the June financials as published in the packet. Is there any further discussion, questions? Not, are you ready for the question? Been a motion made late on the table, second late on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and the chair, the ayes have it. Having received the majority of votes appointed to the board, the motion carries. Item number 7, discussion, consideration, and possible action to recommend to the Guthrie City Council a vacant appointment created by Dr. Joe Lively to the airport board. I believe there was one application that Ms. Botello failed received. And that is Mr. Ryan Husky. Ryan, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Ryan Husky. I've got part of the hangar of 240B down there.
Your business is Husky Aviation. And you've been an A&P for since 2002. And you worked before starting your own business.
I worked here for Crabtree till 2014 and then regulations. There for almost 3 years and still legacy aviation out in I started it at the house, I live on a crash strip. South here, all my everything. People were scared of the grass, so I started getting hangers.
So it's been a process that you had
Yes,
started out. Then you built the current hangar this year.
yeah, me and my dad and one other guy there.
Since the retirement of Glenn and Quinn, Ryan is personally responsible for maintaining both of my aircraft, so don't hold that against him. There's been no crash and burn. No. Do the members have any other questions? Is there a motion to make a recommendation to the Guthrie City Council to fill the vacancy created by Dr. Joe Lively?
Now I would move that, Ryan take this position in the fact that it's long-term commitment to the airport, familiarity with both cities. It's been always applicable. It's been excellent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Guy, seconded by both Young and Wallace to recommend the appointment of Mr. Ryan Husky of Husky Aviation to fulfill seat vacated by Dr. Colleen Golightly. Is there any further discussion or questions?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Is this usual and customary process for this board to make those selections?
The board makes recommendations to their respective cities. So if it's an Edmond vacancy, the Edmond City Council would make the ultimate appointment. In this case, the city of Guthrie, since it's a Guthrie representative. But yes, the history has been that the board makes a recommendation to the respective councils. Now, what the mayors do with that is their prerogative. But I think they historically followed the recommendation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Within compliance, you know, Guthrie has special rules on term limits and who serves when. Edmond doesn't have those restrictions, so.
Correct.
Each city kind of follows their practice, their past practice.
All right, so there's been a motion made and seconded to recommend the appointment of Ryan Husky from Husky Aviation to fill the seat as a Guthrie representative to the Guthrie City Council. There's no further discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and receive the authority of those appointed to the constituted board. The motion carries. Brian will look forward to presenting. I will personally shepherd this through the city council at Guthrie and get you with the mayor to, he likes to do an interview, I believe, for his recommendation. So he doesn't bite. So he'll be okay.
I think I've met him once.
All right, well, congratulations on step one of the process. I appreciate your willingness to put your hat in the ring. Take an active role in the airport.
I care about what happens at the airport. I'm new to this. I'm not. Special, for sure.
I appreciate your humble modesty as well. Thank you. Item number 8, discussion, consideration, and possible action to recommend that the city of Guthrie City Council find Spirit Wing Aviation Limited has defaulted on its obligations under the hangar ground lease agreement dated October 20th, 1998, and pursue any and all remedies available to the city of Guthrie under the agreement. I am in a minute turn this over to Director Young. I will note that as a result of vacation, we do not have legal counsel present today. So if you have questions about legal issues, while I am an attorney, I'm prohibited from addressing those due to the unique nature of my position. So we can get you those answers, but I'll go ahead and acknowledge Director Young for their city's position with regard to Spirit Wing Aviation. Year 21.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If y'all will be patient with me, I have a little bit I wanted to go over here today. I'm without my clicker today, so you'll have to bear with me as I try to hit these arrows. I want to go over with the board some correspondence that we sent to Spirit Wing Aviation a few months ago, and I'm intending to work out a resolution since. First, I want to turn to the airport leasing standards. On the screen is just standard leasing language that exists in all of our ground leases. And this language is in the current 1998 ground lease with Spirit Wing. It states section 3 of the ground lease says the premises shall be used solely for the purposes consistent with the operation of the airport and used for those things directly attendant to lessee's business operation and for any other purposes connected with aviation. Section 22 says no storage of goods or merchandise shall be permitted except within the leased premises, and exterior storage shall be prohibited. And then section 11 of our airport board and city council adopted minimum standards state that operators shall not store any items on the exterior of their hangars without prior written consent from the city. Aircraft in unworthy condition, disabled, disassembled, or partially disassembled aircraft parts or other aircraft parking components shall not be parked, stored, or left standing on the premises for a period in excess of 30 days. One could also argue that we have an issue here as well in keeping with our federal sponsor assurances, because we're allowing an entity on the field to conduct operations without any ground lease revenue going back to the airport while holding others to fair ground lease rent. In seeking to put the lessee in compliance with these measures, we sent the April 2nd and April 5th letter from my office and the April 24th letter via certified mail from the city attorney's office. Not to confuse these letters, the April 2nd letter was invoicing Spirit Wing for a paint spill. As a result, their staff threw wet glue paint away in a trash bin against rules of waste connections because it caused a paint spill on the ramp in the middle of daily operations that had to be cleaned up. However, the two follow-up letters were requesting that Spirit Wing draft a written plan of corrective action to remedy the derelict equipment outside of their leasehold. I also hand delivered these letters to employees at Spirit Wing and spoke to a supervisor over the phone myself, following up on the issue. In this slide, I'll be summarizing our most critical issues to date. In the photo depicting on this map, we have in the black square the size of Spirit Wing's original leasehold as it is written in their ground lease. Everything outside of the hangar and the concrete area remains unleased. It was not incorporated into any sort of ground lease agreement. This hangar issue is of particular concern because it has set a clear precedent to hangar owners on the field that derelict and non-aeronautical equipment may be stored on airport property. Seeing no communication from the lessee and persistent instances of non-compliance with Spirit Wing, we are looking at section 15 of their ground lease agreement, finding them in default. However, the agreement does place certain remedies on the table. The provision for the events of default is in section 15. Lessee shall fail to comply with any term, provision, covenant of this lease and shall not cure such failure within 30 days after written notice thereof from the lessor. So on the agenda item today, it's simply to give recommendation to the City Council of Guthrie that we, one, find Spirit Wing in default of their lease, which calls for them to fail to comply with any term or provision, and two, give City Council all the remedies available to them. I believe that there are 8 different remedies that the lease agreement calls for. You can read here. I also have a copy of the entire lease here at the front, and it was sent out in your packet. Any of these remedies are an option. I think there's 8. I put 7 on the slides because one of the remedies involves their ground lease rate, and Hangar 21 doesn't currently pay any ground lease rate due to their what's contained within their ground lease agreement. With that, I yield back to the chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the members?
I have several copies of leases with Burgess. And we're operating off of the one for this action. Is that correct? From the original 1998?
The 1998 agreement and the 2 amendments with that as well.
And the amendments. And apparently there are 5 amendments. Is that correct?
I believe there may be 5. I thought there was only 3. Wouldn't surprise me if there was 5. I'd have to go back and look. I know that, there's regular amendments that every 10 years or so may have to go before council, but
Okay. All right. And this is all informational stuff. I'm not going anywhere with anything. I just need to be clear. We, as a board, as an airport, about 6 years ago, got involved in this purchase thing, as we all know, with Calvin. And he gave us a lot of opportunity to move back and forth between these leases. We never quite got them cleaned up. And we have more of them. We obviously have our fuel lease, which is a different thing. And we answered that, we moved back and forth. I'm thinking that I'm not saying that we shouldn't move forward on this, but I think we probably ought to have some board input into supporting the Guthrie City Council into, what you're gonna do, what we're, as an airport, are gonna do. I don't wanna put anybody in the spot, but my thought is that, I would support the motion. If there's not a motion yet, but I would support the fact that we probably could do some more, just a little bit more research on the fact of what kind of a reaction we're gonna get on one of these 8. Because he's gonna come back, you know that will be. Remedies that he would have to do. And if you'd only have to do 2, or we have to do all of them, or we have to do 1, or I think we ought to walk through that a little bit as a board and say, well, what do we got here? Because we're opening a giant can of worms with this guy.
I would, thank you, Mr. Guy, first. You know, whenever we were getting ready, whenever I was getting ready to put this agenda item on the agenda, I went through correspondence with Shalon, Stanley, Justin Hyde. So many of my predecessors attempted to get this issue corrected, and it never quite got there. I'll tell you, I think from the staff recommendation level, I want to leave all of the options, especially all 8 options with no city attorney present in the room, open to the Guthrie City Council. I think from my staff perspective on this, I would say if we terminated the lease, there's language in the lease agreement where we can re-enter a lease with Calvin Burgess if he is willing to contact airport administration. I'll tell you, there's a reason that these letters were sent in April and they're on the airport board agenda today. That's because we tried to get in contact with Mr. Burgess. We've hand delivered these letters, made phone calls, sent certified mail, and we've just received no communication whatsoever. And so that's why we brought this before you today. And that's why on the agenda item, we've left those 8 options open to Guthrie City Council, not only just because that's who the lease agreement is originally with, but also just so that there are those options to discuss with like I mentioned, the city attorney.
With regard to assignment of the rights under the lease, what are the provisions? Not asking for a legal opinion, but an outline of what the position is of the city with regard to assignment of rights on airport lease property.
I'd probably have to defer to our city manager on that one. To be quite honest with you, I've been in my mind, how I've seen this is I think I'm most in favor personally of option what I put up here to be B, which is terminate this lease and all rights of lessee hereunder, in which event lessor may recover lessee the loss or damage which lessor may suffer as a result of termination of this lease, including the expense of repossession and any repairs undertaken by lessor following repossession. But I'm not in a position to answer that.
I think at a minimum, we should expect the derelict equipment, the overgrown grass, the storage container, all of that stuff that is visible when you land here, that needs to be cleaned up. And this non-communication game that we're playing back and forth, we're sending certified letter, we're making phone calls. Being stonewalled is not a good response. So I think your agenda item gives you the ability to say, okay, we want to start with the least intensive and be progressive as we go through. So if we can get the hangar cleaned up and we can bring this into compliance, I think that's the goal. Yeah, we need a tenant in that hangar. If that doesn't pan out, then I think we have to take the necessary action that we have to take. So.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think that's what we're doing now.
Yep.
In 2024. We did that in 2015 and got and legally, and I think we're all kind of hanging out a little bit here, but we should have some representation on how that, but I don't think, I feel that that is going to be the game we play for this guy. Out of state business owner, leased property,
The city of Guthrie.
yeah, so.
I was just gonna ask Dick, just for my own clarification, you're not recommending that we not pursue all remedies, right? You wanna leave all the remedies open to?
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. I'm just anxious for the folks in this room to know without our, official legal record. I think that something needs to be done. I think that's been a hanger on forever.
Mhm.
I don't want everybody to kind of understand how this guy plays ball.
From my perspective, he's gonna play ball however he's gonna play, but I think we should open up all the remedies available to try and deal with this once and for all.
I would agree with that, and as Caton indicated, that B was more or less his chosen avenue. It might be that we would say, okay, we as a board agree to that and want to go forward, but we could help, and this is kind of a new point, could help Guthrie City Council with resources. Most of Guthrie City Council.
I think the city council should take the recommendation of the airport board's
Well, I appreciate that because
experience
I think,
and respect, absolutely.
yeah, we've got some stuff that might help you. And it's important for us to offer it.
Absolutely.
That's my thought. And you're right. No, I'm not. I'm saying let's go for it, but let's do it right the first time, because if we blow it, it'll come back at our backs, I guarantee you.
Just to provide some additional points of clarification, staff has been working on this since April. So city attorney's involved, but we've also got outside counsel working on this as well.
So you do have outside counsel? Okay, that's important.
Yes, yes, and we have gone through every amendment and the fuel system agreement, which acts like a lease, but is not a lease because it doesn't have a term, it doesn't have a defined space. So we've spent a substantial amount of resources, time and money, all the way across the board to get you to this point. So from a staff perspective, I think the first step is that we find that he is in fact in default of his lease. From there, I think that gives staff and council and the board the teeth that we need, so we're not sending empty threats.
Yeah. I think that's really the case, because at this particular point, we're all saying, well, come on, Burgess. But if you don't have it documented, you're not getting it. You're not getting there. So I think that's very important. And that's my comment, not selling or buying, just commenting.
Can we go back to the assignment, because I think that there's an ongoing assignment issue. I mean, there's multiple assignment issues, but the most recent one is, for example, if I lease ground space here at Guthrie, just in a hypothetical, and I say I'm going to start a Gera Air, and then all of a sudden a Gera Air goes out of business and I start leasing it to someone else, it's my understanding that that would have to come back before the airport board and be approved. I mean, we've never unduly withheld, but currently there is a sublessee in that property that's operating a business that I don't think that the airport was even made aware of, that that business was in there. And actually there's more than one.
Yeah.
I mean, that there's multiple. And just from a regulatory perspective, to have commercial activity on the field, I want commercial activity. And I don't think that the board in any way doesn't want to be friendly to commercial activity. But it's one of those things where we also have to know what the commercial activity is that's on the field. To ensure that we comply with the provisions of the grant money that we received for this facility from the ODAA. And right now, I'm not sure if we have that. Again, I think there's at least two and possibly three businesses operate that are not Spirit.
Yes, so section 9 of the lease, assignment and subletting, lessee shall not assign or transfer this lease nor any interest herein without the prior written consent of the lessor. So I think that's a whole nother issue. Just adds to the compoundment of what needs to take place.
Seems pretty clear.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I've got 1,000 questions. And first of all, I feel it's unfair to put you in the hot seat on the history of this issue, because you're not the historical guy. But for me, how did we get 25 years down the road? And now all of a sudden, by golly, we're gonna do something. I mean, in my world, that sends a message to whoever the tenant is, that we're gonna allow you to do this, it's usual and customary, we just, yeah, well, it's okay, we just lollygag and let it ride. And then all of a sudden, one day the hammer falls. I'm personally not in favor of that. I mean, I'm not saying that the hammer shouldn't fall, because I think it should. And as far as options that are available to us, I don't see it as, if there's options available, they're available. And we go down the road of the ones that are necessary. Has the FAA looked at this at all? Has anybody in the ADO contacted you about your outside? How long has he not been, golly, where do I stop? How long has he not been paid?
Well, he has never paid for the ground lease because of the installation of the fuel system, the two fuel systems on the airport.
So the fuel system, presence of the fuel system then offset any monthly or annual.
Yes, however, the leasehold is way beyond the bounds of what that original agreement entailed. So we've estimated this original leasehold was around, what was it? Lower 40,000 square feet, and the current leasehold with all of the concrete is over 70,000. And there's even more equipment that's off of the concrete.
And so my question there is, how did that come? I'm not asking you because you don't know. But my question would be is, how did that come to pass? The hangar footprint appears to be a whole lot more than what was initially leased. How did he get permission to do that? Please don't ask, this is just in my head. How did he get permission to do that? And is it usual to lease, just like the black square? We're gonna lease you this, but if you want anything outside of that, then you gotta get permission. I get that. But where does he put his airplanes? How does he taxi into it and out of it? If he only has, are you following what I'm saying? How does he access his property? If he's only allowed to use, he only leases that black square. So, I mean, to me, it's how did this all happen? Sorry, in my world before 20 years, no, this stuff doesn't go on. We don't even get started with it. It just, no, it doesn't happen. So, but you said you did talk to Shalon, and she had no.
Previous airport managers had attempted to make this an issue, and they never got the chance to get it done. And I think one of the reasons that is just getting enough airport support. I think there's a lot of people on the airport board that and council that really want to get agreements done right and get it all done correct. And that takes, as you know, Walt, that's a work in progress that may be decades and decades in the making. I mean, you're gonna have to outlive some of these agreements to get here. And that's one of the reasons that this was brought to the board. And, the previous airport managers I spoke to about this issue all told me the same thing. Every single time they went to a hangar that had a boat parked out of it, or they had some sort of issue going on, and they attempted to get the lessee back in compliance with it. All the lessee had to do is point in the direction of hangar 21, because hangar 21 doesn't have to abide by the rules on this airfield. And so.
This is hangar 21.
Yes, sir, that's hangar
Okay.
21. And so getting hangar 21 in compliance is going to be the first step, many steps of getting this airport back under compliance of not only the lease agreements, so we have fair agreements across the board, but also getting us back under our minimum standards for commercial operators, for sure.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm all in favor for getting this cleaned up. But it seems to me it should have been cleaned up years
Can I
ago.
comment?
Yeah.
Having lived here my entire life and not direct knowledge of the airport, although I do know the airport back when Sock Nelson's. The city of Guthrie, in my experience and my knowledge and my perspective has been many times people came to Guthrie outside the state and wherever they came from with money in their pockets. Seemingly, finance, wealth, whatever. They bought buildings that are still standing empty 30 years later because they either couldn't produce the money to fix them. Even today, some of them have gone along the steps of bringing the buildings up to some standard today, but they're still empty. They've held us hostage because the city, and you can, being on the city council as long ago as you were, maybe you will agree or not agree, but Guthrie welcomed them open arms because they came in with seemingly big fat pocketbooks, and they're going to change the world. And in time, we see that didn't happen, yet the building still sat empty, still sat unrenovated, and we can't do a thing about it. I see this as an opportunity, as you said, to set the record straight, start a point from here forward to do what should have been done, needs to be done to make it fair and equitable for everybody concerned. And I hope to someday see that in our city limits uptown with the buildings that we deem as historical value that are supposed to bring people to town instead of walk down the streets and historical.
I had a comment that I was gonna reserve to the end of the meeting, but I'm gonna inject it now because I think it's appropriate at this time. I was gonna talk about past mistakes that this board may have made, things that I don't think that we did maybe accurately or correctly, even during times where I was associated with the board. And one of the things that I think that we're doing is we're maturing as a body, and I think we're changing from a reactionary body to a proactive body, where we actually have a plan. And we're not just trying to fill the spaces, but rather create the vision that we have and make sure we have the appropriate people in those spots. Another example of that is I've observed us, going outside of our general plan for the airport and allowing people to tell us where they ought to build hangars. I think that we should be proactive as a body to develop those spaces ahead of time and allow them to fill those spaces rather than us being, having the tail wag the dog, so to speak. So I think part of this is we're becoming more disciplined as an airport board as we mature, and I think this is an example of a time where we need to clean up things that we've done in the past.
Well, therein is one of my early on conversations with Kate. Where's your master plan? What do you want to be when you grow up? And we don't have that. But what we do have is ancient. And what about your rules and regulations, your minimum standards? Because as you just said, if Joe Bag of Donuts comes to you and says, you say, what are you doing here? You can't do that. It's against, well, what about hangar 21? We're gonna get that until we start putting it down and saying, no, you can clean these things up. And I agree. I really do. It's just still curious to me how we got so many years. And in that, to me, it seems like since it on us, we've come so far and done nothing that we should let them know. My bad. I've been a long time, should have got this cleaned up years ago, but you gotta know that we're gonna do something. And it's curious to me, I personally know Calvin Burgess. It's been a long time, a Okay, I also knew Sock Nelson. So it's been a long time since I've spoken, with him, but I always found him to be a man of integrity and of his word, and would take care of business properly. So this is curious to me, but I haven't talked to him in 20 years. So it's curious to me that suddenly Calvin would go down this road. Maybe his life has changed, I don't know. And I'm in agreement that we should do something. And it should send a message also to other tenants that, you know, we're gonna clean this up, because it puts us in jeopardy with Federal Aviation Administration. You know, you go to them with your hand open saying, we sure like to have some money to do this thing or that. And then they say, well, how many hangars do you have that it's not an aeronautical use? What, do you know what's going on in hangar 21 these days? Do you know?
I don't think many do, outside of Hangar 20.
We've tried, let's put it that way. I know he's got a T-33, a Steiger wing, and each variant that he stores there.
He Calvin, he's Spearland.
I, as a former law professor, and I'm currently a marketing professor, but as a former law professor, I want to address the whataboutism for the board and for enforcement. It's not a valid defense of law to say the guy speeding in front of me was going faster, right? And that's not a valid defense, and we should never have allowed that. I mean, that, you know, when we, you know, for people to point to Hangar 21 and say that that's not a valid. If you are speeding and the police officer stops you, the car going faster than you is irrelevant, right? I mean, it's whether or not you've committed the crime. And there's an enormous amount there. And I think, you know, what I think the board is recognizing is that it's going to take steps, but we cannot clutch our pearls and wring our hands and do nothing. We've got to move off I-center and do something about that. And the fact that it occurred in the past was not handled, that's sort of irrelevant too. It just need to move forward.
And I don't think
I would agree with that, and I'm so glad that you made the comments you do. And I'm so glad to see you here at this meeting, because you've been there.
Been 12 years.
When this all came down, this is probably one of the more cohesive opportunities we've had. You represent business and industry on the airport. You've seen the ups and the downs, the goods, the bad, and like I say, on the board. And so, your comments would be appreciated. I'm glad because we're getting ready to make a motion, saying, okay, let's get this thing done. I think everybody in the room said, yeah, what are you doing? You're keeping me up. Bottom line is, that's what we're gonna run into. FAA, all these other guys, and I don't know, I would appreciate a quick comment from you, Dan, as far as what does business think about that? How are we gonna attract more business and keep you guys here? And I guess everybody knows that here. If you don't mind, would you just
I'm Dan Beerley. I'm VP of Business Development at Cisco Aeronautics. I was on the board for, I don't know, 4 years, something like that. And then I moved outside the city limits of Guthrie, so then I had to be removed from the board. I resigned from the board. I was not removed from the board. And so, you know, as far as like, yeah, I mean, it's an eyesore. We have customers come by to visit our place regularly, and they're always, whenever we get somebody to come to us, they're always impressed with our facility. But then there's kind of like, what's the junkyard across the way? Oh, yeah. So, I mean, does it impact our business? Well, not. Should it be there? No. Would I expect us to be in violation of our lease for 20 years and get away with it? No. Yeah, and then just not to light any fires up, but, I mean, Calvin's son-in-law was on the board for a long time. I mean, that, you know, that kind of causes an impact on how things get done too, so, but.
Well, thanks, and I think that's important. I think our thrust here is to grow and make this thing go, and we need that business friendly. That's what we want. We're in a quagmire right now of how we move out of this. I'm not trying to make any more out of it than I am, but this is a really good, and what Tracy said, frank discussion on, okay, let's go forward, but let's not, this is a good chance not to make another mistake.
Bob, did you have a question? You'd like
Yeah,
to-
just a couple of points to make, because you guys, as you well know, I acquired hangar 2 from Calvin, and did the renovation over there. The utilities to the fuel system that were installed in '98, I think it's important people understand that the utilities for that fuel system are tied to my hangar. And that fuel system agreement in exchange for the free rent or no ground lease on hangar 21, I've dealt with Calvin 100 times, and most recently asked him to pay his utilities again and again, and he won't. So to the point of, you know, what we're talking about, what this airport means to me and my investment, the first thing you see is the trash over there when you land, whether you're in a, you know, a Phenom or you're landing in a 182, you see that. And I think it's our right to say, it's just not fair. And I can't speak to precedent, how we got here, because I sat in 10 airport board meetings before, well, you ever came on and said, hey, this is a problem and we do need to fix it. But at the end of the day, I think we're on the right track. We've got to do something. And what happens from there is, my dedication is that everybody that comes to this airport has a great first impression. And that over there is the first thing they see. So it's just heart wrenching to me because he's not answering calls, he's not responding to anybody, and he's not paying his utilities, and his fuel systems have been abandoned. To be clear, we spent $15,000 renovating because it was just not safe. There was fuel left in it. So those aren't our fuel systems, those are his. So we don't know where he's at or what he's doing, but the fuel system and the utilities to it are another point that I think differentiate this from the guy that has a boat in his hangar.
There are no further comments or questions. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we find Spirit Wing Aviation in default of its obligations and recommend the Guthrie City Council pursue any and all remedies available under that agreement.
But a motion made to find Spirit Wing Aviation LLC in default of their leasehold agreement and ask the city of Guthrie to pursue any and all remedies available to it to remedy and rectify the situation regarding hangar site 21. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made, seconded, and laid upon the table. There's no further discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, aye. Any opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Having received the majority of those appointed to the constituting board, the motion carries. Thank you. I appreciate all of the discussion. This has been one of the longer board meetings that we've had as a result of that. Item number 9 is discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding leasehold improvements to construct a reinforced walkway between hangar site number 5 and hangar site number 6. Director Young.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a relatively simple item. Earlier this month, our staff noticed that there was some sort of improvement project occurring between hangars 5 and 6, which are both leased by Zivco. I made contact with Zivco and they were unaware that they had to go before the airport board to obtain written approval for such improvements. They were put in contact with city planning and have been very forthcoming and communicative about their plans for the site. There currently exists a walkway. This is hangar 5 and this is hangar 6. There currently exists a walkway between them. They're looking to make these garage doors, these doors here wider to make small garage doors. And then reinforce the concrete between both buildings so they can make a forklift, they can transport a forklift between the two and improve the efficiency of their operations. Leslie has spoken with city planning about proper permits and is here today in case the board has any questions. All of this remains within the two leaseholds of the hangars themselves. And so they're here today.
Does the proposed walkway, it wouldn't cover any utilities or, I mean, it's not gonna
The concrete's
You're
already
not gonna
there.
build another building in there, so that's obvious. Yeah, you say that there's a walkway already there.
Just between, it's a breezeway between the two buildings.
Oh, okay. And the dimensions? Say again?
I believe 8 feet
8 feet wide
between the buildings.
or 8 feet between the buildings?
But there's an 8 foot walkway, that's 8 feet wide.
8 feet wide, and
For the
the
back,
distance
the back.
just between the buildings, whatever that. Okay, obviously it wouldn't have any negative impact on anybody else.
No, sir, it would just be a leasehold improvement for them. It's just in their lease that, any leasehold improvements or alterations must go for the airport board. So that's why they're here.
Basically, we don't wanna have to open our big hangar doors to take small parts from one building to the other. We're gonna have a smaller door to be able to go between the two buildings. That's the simple version.
Then nobody sees it.
Exactly.
There any further questions or discussion?
Move to approve.
There's been a motion made by member Strong and seconded by Mr. Young to approve the leasehold improvements to construct a reinforced walkway between hangar site number 5 and hangar site number 6. There's no further discussion. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Having received the majority of those appointed to and constituting the board, the motion carries. Item number 10, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve amendment number 6 to owner engineering agreement with Park Hill for design and construction of a portion of the parallel taxiway directory.
Mr. Chairman and Board, before you in your packet is amendment number 6 to the airport owner engineer agreement with Park Hill Engineering. This is our master agreement between the airport sponsor and Park Hill for engineering services. In accordance with our current capital improvement plan, CIP, in the Oklahoma Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics, the ODAA, they have a program called their ACP, their Airport Construction Program. I put in my notes to pause here for a breather because of all the acronyms. We're ready to accept this amendment for design and grant administration services for our upcoming taxiway project. The nearly $500,000 in design costs is completely reimbursable by the FAA for 90% of the cost, and for the state portion, the state will have a portion of that reimbursement as well. With that, I yield back.
What's the state's portion?
At this time, we believe it's 5%.
That is a moving target, sir.
I will. Is there any other questions or discussion on item number 10?
Just a quick question. Do you know what our agreement is with Park Hill? It's every 5 years for engineering. Where are we in that agreement right now?
We are coming up on our last year, so we'll be going out for this soon.
Thank you.
Does one of these items under A1 also include environmental evaluation?
The environmental for the taxiway is already complete. Already, yes, we have a CADEX.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks. Is there any other questions? There are a motion.
So moved to approve.
Second, there's been a motion made by Guy and seconded by Mr. Wallace to approve amendment number 6 to the owner engineering agreement with Park Hill for design and construction of the portion of the parallel taxiway. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, are you ready for the question? All those in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Members George has 22 and constituted board, the motion carries. Item number 11, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve amendment number 7 to the owner engineering agreement with Park Hill for land acquisition and appraisal services. Director Young.
Thank you. This item is going to be a lump sum agreement for Park Hill to perform appraisal and acquisition services for nearly 50 acres, making up the Cogburn and Martin properties. Both the previous item and this item will go before Guthrie City Council as well for approval. This is a map of the Martin property here at the end of the 3-4 south end of the taxiway. And then this is a map of the Cogburn property. You can see it without the sun's glare. It's going to be for this portion here, this 20-acre portion along that side here. Right next to the property that the city already owns, the Guthrie Economic Development Authority.
Questions or comments?
Is
If not,
that,
Go ahead.
is all of that, pretty much even ground?
I believe so. That's without any, of course, any sort of topographical surveys, but
And the, access to all of that, you wouldn't have any, I mean, I see it sectioned out away from, so what color is that, brown?
red.
The red piece?
Yes, sir.
Then that, if we acquire that, then that abuts to existing airport property?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Our goal would be eventually to look at doing taxi lane development here along the south portion. And then opening up hangar space here, as the board's well aware, we're essentially out of space over on our existing portion of the airport until we build a detention pond. And so this will open up some more development on the south portion.
any way you could sneak that detention pond in as an item during the construction of the airline?
Money, money, money.
That's actually a really good spot because of that ravine that goes through right there.
Yeah, that'd be a good question for Toby.
Well, while you have heavy equipment on site, but it's not co-located with that area. Sorry, I digress.
I have a quick question of you, if it's for board approval. Is Edmond aware of all of what we're doing in that particular area as far as budget concerns and contributions to our moving forward with our team?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Both cities, we're in constant communication, and as I just said, the funding is a moving target. So we've got a lot of projects coming up. So I think both cities are in for the next couple of years on the projects we've already discussed. This amendment, we're going to appraise property. We're going to look at the acquisition. We're not agreeing to acquire any property at this time. So once that comes back, once we see what that may entail, then we'll take the next step from there after we get back there forward.
Thank you. Moving on.
Yes, sir.
There are no further comments or questions. Chair would entertain a motion
Make a motion.
to approve amendment number 7 to the owner engineering agreement with Park Hill for land acquisition and appraisal services. Is that correct? Is there a second?
Second.
The motion made second laid on the table by member Wallace, seconded by Mr. Strong. Are you ready for the questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Nay. And the chair, the ayes have it. Every seat, majority of those appointed to the constituting board, the motion passes. Item number 12, airport director's report.
Mr. Chairman, since we were unable to meet quorum last month, I have quite a few updates, but I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, since you all have a copy. The bulb, ballast, and obstruction light was replaced in the airport beacon, should be operational. The self-serve receipt machine is not printing receipts currently. Hoydell has been contacted, and they are still working to fix the issue. Hopefully by tomorrow afternoon, it will be fixed. In the meantime, when users come in for self-serve, they're able to print receipts at the FBO desk. I want to thank Apex Executive Jet Center, Justin and his staff for helping us with the Guthrie Public Library's tour of our airport facility back in late June. I didn't get a chance to thank them last month. I also presented to the Guthrie and Edmond Rotaries this last July. Both groups had a lot of questions and interest in the airport, so I thank them for having me. I'd like to thank the following sponsors so far for our airport fly-in. We've raised quite a bit of donation funds that 100% supports activities here at the airport, such as the summer flight camp, the Santa Fly-In, and our annual community day and fly-in. Our sponsors thus far are the hangars at Guthrie, Matherly Mechanical, Custom Autos by Tim, Cloud9 Fuel, Apex Executive Jet Center, Craver Aeronautics, Zivco Aeronautics, Park Hill Engineering, Gera Aviation, and Blue Skies Flight School. Also want to update the board on an issue they're probably already aware of. We had a deer strike on Sunday night on the 1-6 end of the runway. I've requested the pilot, our very own Mr. Wallace, to give me a statement so I can upload it into our system. I want to let Mr. Wallace speak on behalf of his incident if he wishes to do so in his comment period. We are thankful that he is safe. Last Friday, we hosted 17 kids ages 8 to 12 at our summer flight camp right here in this room. We partnered with Max Westheimer's Senior Flight Academy, which did everything from designing, building, and shooting off model rockets. A picture here. To learning the principles of flight and a tour of the airport. They were scheduled for free flights around Guthrie with local EAA chapter 1098, but due to rain and low cloud forecast, that has been moved to this Saturday at 9 a.m. I received excellent feedback from the parents of participants and I'm hoping to raise enough funds this year to possibly extend the camp to 3 days. Although I will say I'm still recovering from our 1 day with the 28-year-olds running around the tunnel. I do want to give a huge thank you to former board member Colleen Golightly for assisting me with this event. She was a huge help and I can't thank her enough for volunteering her time to assist. Finally, talk about next upcoming event. I want to formally invite the board on September 7th to our 11th annual Community Day and Fly-In. If you know of anyone that would be interested in setting up as a vendor or wants to display their aircraft, please let me know, as we still have space available and are still accepting donations until the end of this week. I've had multiple meetings with 3 EAA chapters to coordinate the ramp the day of the event, and we're looking to take over 100 kids up for free on the day on that day. I've shared the link on our Facebook. I know that many of you may be involved in aviation groups such as OPA or EAA, and I would appreciate your support spreading the word about this event. So many don't get the opportunity to experience aviation, and I'm proud of what our airport's been able to put on for the last 10 years, and I'm excited to be a part of it for its 11th. And lastly, just our next airport board regularly scheduled meeting is going to take place here on September 10th. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the director? Hearing none, I will move to request comments from the members of the airport board. Number Young. No. Strong.
Whose flight school is bringing forward?
Aeronauts. Yeah, 4 SR-20s over there.
That'd be a good opportunity for them to shine, bringing SR-20 out and show people around. That Sooner Flight Academy, obviously I've had some exposure to that. And folks, that is one of the best things since sliced bread. I knew quite well, I knew Pam Kennedy, who started that back in the 90s. And it's just been one that's grown and done well. And if you can stand the pressure, I would agree that to bring it to 3 days instead of just 1. Because the kids get stuff out of that, it's just great. It's just great. So, thank you for doing what you done. There with the old guy asking a lot of questions for answers that you probably don't know.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm glad to bring, you want me to do the burritos that I did at Community Coffee?
Yeah,
Here for the flying day, that.
Okay.
They travel well, we cater them all the time, so we put them in the packet, they stay hot. I'll be here at 8:30, so 100 of them or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, we can talk more about it.
Just so they skip away.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, never a big hit.
Very nice. Excellent.
Mr. Vice Chairman,
Nothing here.
Councilman Williams.
I just appreciate everybody's input. Historically, I'm learning. Literally looking forward to the forward movement that's going on here. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of that. And for whatever reason today, I feel like the board's coming together more. Less opposition, more for the focus on what's ahead.
Appreciate that. Member Wallace, I have saved you for last, since I figured you might have some lengthy comments.
I'm gonna talk about the fun stuff first. So I made a last minute decision to go to Oshkosh Air Venture this year. And had no idea what to expect. I mean, like, probably many people have looked at it for years, as, you know, airplane mecca. But it blew my mind. So bigger than any of the air races or air shows that I've ever been to. It's an event that really excited me about GA. And so I would like to recommend that we consider making that a board retreat next year. Something where if board members are interested in going, why don't we all get together and make a trip out there and get to see some of the very best of general aviation. And I find many opportunities of things that we can bring to our airport to make it fantastic. So I think with all of your experience, you'll find many more of those opportunities. So I would encourage us to consider making that an event next year. Now the not fun news, a couple of nights ago, I met Bambi's mom. And
How'd that go for you?
it didn't go so well. Worse for Bambi's mom.
Up close and personal.
Up close and personal, yeah. So, yeah, the short version is just doing night qualifications, just getting my night flight, current, and making my currency. And second takeoff, I had just for transparency, I had made a couple of radio calls earlier in the day. Pilots be aware of deer on the field. So I was very aware of it. And I, after landing on 1-6, I was taxiing back to 1-6. Nights, and go to a night is full stop. That's meant to be known. So taxiing back to 1-6 on Alpha and looking over where I'd seen deer earlier today, didn't see any. Thought I was in good shape. Took off on 1-6 and maybe at 800 feet, I saw a deer crossing at 1,000-foot mark. I was traveling, my last airspeed call was 60 knots, so I was estimating my speed at 65 knots. I rotated 70. Deer was right in the wing route before I could do anything about it. So I tried to get myself above the deer. I was hoping to hop it, and didn't happen. I actually crushed my exhaust pipe and hit the wing root as the deer went under the airplane. As I took off, my right indicator light went out, so I thought I lost my right gear. So I orbited for about 40 minutes until I could get people here at the airfield to give me a visual on landing gear, and all intact, all worked well. So landing was fine, but yeah, didn't enjoy meeting Bambi's mom. Not the best date I'd ever had.
We're glad you're here to tell the story.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
We are grateful that you are here to, and the plane, although it has sustained some damage, will be
It'll fly again.
airworthy.
It actually was airworthy when I landed, but just has some repairs. I will say that I was motivated to look at some more management opportunities, and it turns out I'm pretty close friends with someone over at South Wildlife Management who's in charge of the statewide herd, and so we've been given some new management opportunities that I've brought to directors now. So Game is now aware of some of those, and I think we're going to probably see a reduction of the population in the area.
In addition to that, I will throw in as part of our conversation today, the two cities are going to explore the perimeter fencing and how to get that on the AIP. We have many projects coming up, more projects than this airport's probably ever seen. Definitely at one time. So two cities are going to make it a priority to do what we can to move up the fencing funding mechanism. And that may mean pushing some projects back, but it's going to be hard to develop an airport if we continue to have that issue. So
We've got one yes vote.
we recognize that, and we are working on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I would be yes vote also. Fencing is not a silver bullet.
100%. In fact, I was gonna suggest that the FAA's 5-foot fencing is virtually worthless. So when we are considering fencing, let's be please considering 8-foot or taller fencing.
We had a number of deer strikes and we installed 8-foot with 3 strands of barbed wire across the top of it. That finally seemed to do the trick, but then we shifted from deer to coyotes. Because coyotes would come underneath, and then you get coyotes running into range. But with this kind of topography that you got with all the trees and such on the east side, it's gonna be tough to get rid of all, but you can't slow it down. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Nothing worse.
Ryan, I am glad that you're here and we're able to share with us. I think it's a testament to good pilot skills and emergency management skills in the cockpit that allowed you to do that. And so I am grateful for that. It's for all of us who own aircraft and are pilots, I think it's a lesson in that we need to be vigilant and keep those skills up because they are absolutely critical. I know a lot of pilots who don't practice emergency management skills in between their buying units. They don't practice stalls, a lot of things that they probably should. My family has graciously asked if they could volunteer for our fly-in day to help do anything they want. They did request that I get them shirts with the Guthrie Airport logo on it. So I said I would do that if they would volunteer. They're excited about that. My brother had this crazy idea that he wanted me to pitch, and it was just sort of an off the wall idea. Then I did start thinking about it. Maybe it's not as off the wall. As you all have known, I've been on this drumbeat about wanting to do a stoll competition or some kind of competition at Guthrie, and obviously we can't do that during the fly-in. It's way too short of time period to organize something like that. But my brother had this insane idea where it's called Stop on a Dime, which is we would put a red traffic cone over a dime on the taxiway and have planes taxi and see which one would get closest to the dime. And for an entry fee, you would then give whoever got closest with their front nose gear to the dime would win the pot. I don't know if we can do something, but it's I'm always trying to think of ideas, and it seemed like a stupid idea to me when he brought it up, because I generally think that it's not my idea, it's a stupid idea. But then I'm perfectly willing to steal other people's ideas. That's called good academic, right? No, I'm just kidding. So if we can think of things like that to improve and increase the sort of interest in the fly-in, I think those are all worthy ideas to consider. I attended the Oklahoma Pilots Association monthly meeting. I do that every month, and Jeff Sandusky spoke this last month about EAA. He goes every year. He is the Cirrus salesperson. I think it is interesting from a number of perspectives. Their goal at EAA this year was to, I think he said, and I may be wrong on this, 15 contracts for SR-22s. Those will not be ready for 3 years. In order to get a contract, you had to have the customer actually put down $100,000 non-refundable deposit for those. They got not 15, they had 75 deposited contracts this year at EAA, and I think 5 provision jets. So that's, I think, a positive sign for general aviation, that there's that much interest in general aviation. So I think the outlook for Guthrie is very, very positive, given our strategic location, being able to capitalize on a lot of that. So I'm interested that our flight school bringing the SR-20s, that's a positive development. And again, Ryan, I am very grateful that you're here and we're able to share with us that. I don't have anything else. So if there is no further business before the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
So there has been a motion made and secondly on the table. There's no discussion on a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed, nay? If any of the chair, the ayes have it, having received the majority of those appointed to the custody board, the motion passes. We stand